What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Capitalize Podcast. I'm Chris Casella alongside Grant Smith. And as always, this episode is brought to you by our private lending company, Sharper Capital Partners. If you want to learn more about how Sharper Capital can help you build your real estate investing business, feel free to get in touch with us at the contact information down below or check out sharpercapitalpartners.com. It's been a minute since we've sat down and had a conversation or we've had a guest on the show, which we'd like to be more consistent with this, but it's also a good problem to have because we've been very busy and we've been growing and building relationships. So Grant and I just wanted to sit down and have a conversation pretty much between each other, but also directly to you and reflect on specifically the past year of this business, some of the relationships that we've made, some milestones that we've hit, and just generally, say thank you to everybody who we've met, who we've done business with, and who's helped us along the way.
Yeah, exactly that. One of the things that I think triggered this for me personally, Chris, is I was writing a newsletter for, our email, broadcast list. And we recently sponsored an event for, it's a local meetup called the Best Ever Mastermind here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Definitely should check it out if you're local to the area or in the area. It's worth a visit. It's on the last Tuesday of every month. So, I went to that meetup back in high school or college, I should say. 2016, I think that was the first meetup I ever went to. And, I was shaking in my boots back then, was afraid to even say that I was interested in real estate because I was, we were both so young and I wasn't too sure of myself or what exactly I was getting into. And, I just knew I wanted to be in and around real estate. And so, that's kind of how I approached it. And one of the guys in the breakout group, his name's Slocum Reed, and we had Slocum on the podcast. I think he was actually our most recent guest as of this time. So Slocum and I have developed a relationship, over the last, I call it, year and a half that we've been really out there promoting ourselves. And he asked us to be the first sponsor that the group had. And it was just kind of a funny full circle thing because it's like, well, there was the first meetup I ever went to, literally terrified to be at. And then I think I've missed maybe one or two meetups over the last year and a half. And, now we're being asked to sponsor this meetup. I'm good friends with the host at this point. And just like you said, what a turn it's taken, over the course of where we first started to where we are now. And it just triggered a point of reference to look back and figure out, gosh, really, what have we done over the last year? And better yet, what have we done over the course of our, short real estate careers?
Yeah. And I just think back to, we've talked about this a little bit, but coming back to it, I think is just such an important point. When we first started out in this business, we were still figuring things out and we were still trying to gain traction. But the way that we did that was by going and having conversations with people, shaking their hands, looking them in the eye and saying, hey, I'm a little bit newer, but this is what I'm here to do. And I would love your help. It's kind of swallowing our egos and saying, we know that there are people out there who are having a lot of success. We know we have a great product to offer. We know, we can fit well in this market and help people build their portfolios. And really it's just a matter of reaching out to the right people. So we've really been, pulled along by some really remarkable people. Some of it's been from cold calls on LinkedIn. I think about someone like Rob Speckert. Some of it's been through going to these meetups and talking to Slocum. Some of it's been connecting with other private and hard money lenders in the space who've just been incredibly helpful. And, in the very beginning, we were a little bit nervous. I just think about this as we're talking about it, Grant. We were like, there's so many people in the space and there's so many different people posting on Facebook specifically when we were first starting out. We're like, oh gosh, how are we ever going to compete with this? And the more we got to talk to people, the more we realized there is enough room and enough business for everybody in this space. And really, it's more of a cooperative effort between, the people that you build relationships with more than it being a competition. So I think that's been one thing that's been really, really nice as we've developed these relationships and as we built this business is just realizing that, especially in real estate and especially in this local market, everybody's out there to help one another. And it's just been so much fun being able to spend time with people who are out there with the same goals and the same kind of mindset towards life, trying to live life by design rather than by default and kind of make it happen. So it's just been really fun.
Yeah, the people who we come across in this real estate investment space, typically we are all sharing definitely the same level of drive. I'd say, we have really strong motivators for what we're trying to do. And the end goal that we're all looking for is, usually on the same spectrum, which winds up in some component of wealth creation, legacy planning, or, financial independence, if you will. And so, like you said, the relationships, the friendships we've made throughout this process are more than anything why I felt like, we should come on and talk specifically about the journey here, because it's just made it so rewarding. And, when you go out in business, you obviously go out there to make a good chunk of change. But what you don't expect is how these relationships just honestly mean so much more than the money itself. And so, like you said, we listed some names, and there's so many people that have helped us that we couldn't go around and thank them all. But just our clients, our vendors, we are so grateful to be able to do business with them. Something that, I just want to revisit, because some people might be listening at this point, and they might not fully understand where we actually came from. Before we got into this business, I was just working a medical device sales job. Still currently there working medical device sales. But, Chris, you were kind of going out on your own, had taken a stab at a few different areas, in terms of starting a YouTube channel and doing various things, there. A lot of personal growth, I'll add to that as well. And I was literally listening to a Nick Huber podcast one day, and he talked about how his business partner, Nick Huber's business partner, I think is Dan Haberg or something to that effect, probably butchering that name. And I was just literally, I remember exactly where I was. I was in my car, and I called you and I was like, man, we just need to just be in the same room together for an extended period of time, and we'll figure out, a way to make money. And that's not a very good business plan, but that's what my business plan was. I just felt like if we were working together, we were going to make something special. And in the beginning, I owned some self-storage, and I was doing this private lending thing on the side, which is Sharper Capital Partners, that, is more marketable and more well-known now. But, we were just trying to streamline processes in the self-storage space, and then we're going to go out and try and acquire more self-storage. Absolutely no idea how, we were going to go about marketing for new self-storage or things like that. Chris was writing SOPs,
Yellow
for that
pages and cold calls. That's how.
Yeah. Just working with what we had. But the lending side of the business grew, and it became more and more work. And Chris was like, let me pick that off your plate. And so you picked it off my plate. And then we came across, the Hard Money Mastermind and Hard Money Bankers and those guys that, what they were doing in the industry. And, we were kind of like, there's a whole business around this private lending thing. And we really came across all this stuff just about this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe July or June. And then we just started going out and meeting up with people and trying to figure out, what would a standardized loan product even look like for a fix and flip? And I don't know what your recollections are of that first phase of getting the product figured out, but that was a pretty daunting and lonely time, because we took seemed like it was exciting, but we also didn't get a lot of traction very quickly. And I'll let you speak to that, because you spent most of the time in loan origination.
Yeah, well, I think, an important piece here when we think about the idea, when we say, oh, there's actually a business to be built here, what do we mean by that? Well, when we were thinking about it, everybody gets into business and everybody gets into real estate to make money. You can try and splice it however you want to. And yes, there are other motivations, but that's the primary driver for everybody, right? But in order to make money, at least the way that I look at it, and I think Grant and I agree on this, is you have to solve a problem. You have to be able to provide some sort of value to the marketplace at large. So we knew, based on what other people were telling us, not necessarily our firsthand experience, except for some of the private lending that Grant had done previously, that there was a need for this product in the market. And specifically, there was a need for more local private lenders in the market, because a lot of people were having bad experiences with some of the national guys. There's some national guys that do a great job. That's not really my main point here. My main point is that we started to second guess ourselves when we actually started taking this more seriously, and we went out there, because You know, what I've learned now, having been involved in this for so long, you know, as long as I have, not for so long, is there are people who come in and out of these Facebook groups, who come in and out of these meetup groups, especially when it comes to financing. And there are people saying, hey, I offer this and this is the product I have, and, you know, whatever. A lot of those people show up for like 3 meetings in a row, or they post on Facebook once a month for like 2 months, and then you never hear from them again. And so I started to think about it from, you know, our client's perspective and our potential borrowers' perspective. And I was like, you know, this is just going to take time, because if I were them, I wouldn't trust me either. You know, I've been on 2 meetings here, like on Zoom, or I've been to 2 meetings in person, or I've posted on Facebook a couple times, and I'm just like, you know, I have no credibility. But over time, then we started to show up. We started to have genuine conversations with people. We started to really just be ourselves, shake people's hands, start to understand what people were looking for. And, you know, over time, really it was a course of, realistically, it was, you know, at least 4 months. Even now, you know, we're still building those relationships, and we're still figuring out exactly like what our perfect product market fit is. But we really started to kind of gain some traction and hit our stride, you know, I'd say 5 or 6 months in, of showing up consistently, talking to people, answering the phone when they called, letting them know that we're real people and that we actually grew up here and that we actually intend to do what we say we're going to do. And I think, you know, that was a really important piece of it, is when we think about like, okay, there's a business to be had here. Yeah, there's an opportunity to make some money, but there's also an opportunity to, in order to do that, you're going to have to provide some value and figure out what problem you're going to solve in the market. And it took us some time to do that, just to be totally transparent. But now that we've started to figure it out, that's where we started to gain some momentum. And really all that has been because we built relationships consistently over time.
Yeah. And I really want to take a moment and just note how great of a job you did with that. And you've always looked at people, you know, I feel like this might not be the correct way of putting it, but like whenever you're talking to someone, I feel like you always look them in the eye, like you always give them attention. You always try to look at them as a person. And, you know, there's some good sustains out there from other private lenders, and I don't want to steal their thunder, but, you know, essentially you don't want to look at someone like, you know, they're a cash register, you know, they're more than just, you know, a borrower, they're a client, they're, you know, and they end up becoming friends, you know, and, same thing with the vendors that you work with. Like when you work on something that is so important and is so crucial, and they come through and they execute with you, and they provide a great, you know, a great experience to your client. And then your client turns around and recommends you to someone else. It's just like, honestly, you know, for the sake of this call, I'm not going to get into it, but like, it does make you emotional. It's like, there are some people that just really go above and beyond, you know, to make you successful. When you do the right things, you know, when you show up consistently and when you take the right actions. And I think the one thing that Chris and I had from the beginning is, you know, we were going to do this business until it failed. And that was the business plan. It was, hey, this is our product. You know, we have so much time to get this thing up and running before Chris has to get another job. And even then Chris is like, well, I'll just take a part-time job and I'll work, you know, still field calls and all that stuff. We literally said, we'll do whatever it takes. And, you know, especially when you're getting in, you know, I think a lot of people think like, oh, partnerships are great. You know, I didn't know how Chris and I were going to complement each other in the business per se, just because we got along so well. But we have our kind of designated roles more so now, me being on the investor relation, loan servicing side, and Chris being on, you know, the loan origination side and underwriting side. But yeah, my whole point there is just, you know, you really don't know how it's going to play out. You just have to be all in and accept whatever comes your way. And we did so much that I've never done before, you know, with the email broadcasting, finding leads, you know, what is marketing even? You know, I don't think I really had a good grasp of what marketing actually was. You know, how do you nurture a lead? You know, how do you quote a loan quickly and effectively in a way that they can understand? I think that took us a long time to figure out, is how do we communicate this offer that we're trying to make to them in a way that is compelling and they can understand and not feel like we're some sort of fly-by-night shop that's trying to run a fast one by them and just get them on the hook for a high interest rate with a boatload of money, or try to chase their collateral down. Because we're lenders first, we're real estate investors as well, but we don't intend to own people's real estate. We want to lend on the assets and help people build wealth in real estate and crush deals. So those first 3 months, safe to say that we actually had a product and we were out there marketing it. We got some leads quickly early on, but we didn't close anything until late November and December. And those months were tough. The only thing that we had feeding our energy or feeding, the only thing that, when you get a deal, you get a lot of energy because you're like, oh yeah, I got a deal. And we were getting so excited just for someone calling our Google Voice number, getting, and, meanwhile, I'm trying to build out all the forms. So, people can fill out a loan application, get an idea of what our terms are like. And, a loan application comes in. I'm like, did you see that? Making sure like it didn't sneak by you, Chris. Right. But all this to say that, there was so much to put together in the beginning. And we just sat down and checked one thing off after another, even when there weren't deals closing.
Yeah. I'll bring up something that kind of piggybacks off of a comment that you made, and Grant, and it's, finding this balance, especially as we're growing, of making sure that people feel heard and respected, and making sure they understand that we take their deal and their circumstances very seriously, whilst also simultaneously running an effective business. And what I mean by that is, I've spent throughout the course of this time, there have been days where I've spent, an hour on the phone with somebody and will never do a deal with them. And sometimes that's okay. It depends on the circumstances. It really, truly does. Like, it depends completely on the circumstances and where we're at and what the schedule looks like. But, this is our full-time job. It's a business. It pays our bills. It puts food on the table. And at the same time, we're providing a service to other people's business that puts food on the table for them and creates financial freedom, et cetera. Now, it's this balance every single day of, I can't spend too much time on a deal that's never going to be a deal. And I just want to make sure that I'm communicating it effectively as to why that's the case to the person that's calling. Because most likely, if it's something that I can't lend on, it's something that might be worth reevaluating as a deal just in general. And then on top, or, in addition to that, I'm also trying to be on this side where I'm saying, hey, I can't spend more than a certain amount of time on a phone call that's not going to turn into something, because I have somebody else who's calling me about a deal that's going to close tomorrow. And I want to make sure that I'm servicing everybody as well as I can. So it's full transparency for anybody who's listening to this, whether, we have done a deal together, whether we've been on the phone together, or whether we've never talked before, just kind of chatting through some of the challenges that I've faced in the business as we've grown. That's definitely been kind of at the forefront of my mind when I come into the office every day, is trying to find that balance. And I'm not perfect. I could always be better, 100%. And some conversations go better than others, whether that's because I could use a better tone or I could explain it a little bit simpler. Like I'm not entirely sure. And I don't always have that, when you're in the picture, like it's hard to see what it objectively sounds like to other people. So I'm always just doing my best out there and trying to get better. So I always appreciate feedback, and we're always evolving and learning as we go. But I think that's such an important point that you brought up. All that to say kind of at the end here is we really do take these things seriously, and we take the relationships, we take the deals, we take people's circumstances very, very seriously. And we're trying to balance that with running an effective business as we grow and getting a bunch of phone calls and a bunch of emails and a bunch of loan applications every day, which is exactly what you want. But we're humans, so we're trying to figure out how to do that as effectively as possible.
Exactly. And you more than anyone, I think, you face a lot of urgency. I mean, I do too on the loan servicing side. We want to get these construction draws out to clients within 24 to 48 hours. And that is a priority, right? That's something that we understand is a part of our service agreement when we get into business, because we know how important cash flow is to contractors and, maintaining a good relationship as a real estate investor with your contractor. So, but on your side of things, it's like you have all of these things that are important. You have, developing a relationship with the borrower is probably the number one thing.
For
It's
sure.
like a relationship is the tiebreaker in a lot of ways, because what you find is after you add in all the fees for a lot of the institutional lenders, and you compare it to your local hard money lender, you're probably looking at roughly the same cost. So it's like, why do you work with your local hard money lender? Well, obviously we understand your market because we're local, right? We can meet you for lunch. If there's something that you're working on, we can go drive out to the property and see it and get you a draw right away. There's perks, but if you don't have that relationship, they're going to be like, well, I don't really want you at my property anyways. I don't know you. I don't trust you. So really your advantages as a local hard money lender can be all for naught if you don't have that relationship with the borrower. And so you're balancing this act of quality conversation, but you also have quantity, because you have to get through so many conversations in order to get a loan closed, get a loan underwritten, source through leads. And that's not something that I don't think we really anticipated early on, because there wasn't a lot of knocking going on, and you didn't have multiple loans to close while you were getting new leads at the same time. And so that balancing act is pretty challenging. And as we continue to scale, just talking about the arc of where our business is headed, when we started, it was just Chris in an office and me on the other end of the building. And that's where we still are right now, but we're in the process of, we now have a virtual assistant, probably need to entertain an outside hire for either transaction coordination or accounting/loan servicing, which means we need probably more formal office space to, house that, employee along with us and the team and our documents and all those things. So it's interesting, because as we go along, in order to provide the highest quality service possible to our clients, we realize like we can't be the one giving it all the time. And so a new challenge for us in our business, but something that I'm super excited about personally, because, I think that the natural course of growth for any business is to use sources of leverage that we always talk about, whether it's social media for influence, whether it's capital, which is the most directly correlated form of leverage for our business, right? Because we're raising capital on one end and deploying on the other. And now it's going to be human capital. And you and I talk about all the time, we're like, we have no idea if it's going to be, 1.5x or if it's going to be a 5x to our business, but probably depends on how well we hire and how well we document our processes.
Yeah, and how well we manage. It's a really interesting time, but it's also really exciting. And I think, real estate investors, people that we work with every day, people that we're interacting with every day can really appreciate this. It's, it's this interesting time, because in order to service our clients better, we have to be better business owners. Like, we have to continue to become better entrepreneurs, which is a really interesting thing to think about, in the beginning. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like, we're not getting carried away here. I mean, we're still very, relative to other institutional lenders and other even lenders that we know, we're very, very small. We're still pretty niche and everything, but we are growing. And so it's just an interesting time to think about, we really have to develop this skill set of managing people and making sure that we're hiring on people whose values align with our own. If we do end up bringing somebody on the team, which I think we will, and making sure that, the relationships with our clients are maintained, and that, we're connecting them with this new person who's going to be an additional face of our business. And it's just, it's all the more reason to make sure that we're writing good loans and doing good business. And again, still balancing that with making sure that we're giving our clients, the most valuable product and the most valuable service that we can. So I think it's super exciting. I mean, it's something that it's a good problem to have, right? Growth is a good problem to have. And I wouldn't even necessarily categorize it as a problem. It's just an additional challenge as we continue to evolve.
Dude, and I'm coming off script here, but I had this like epiphany last night as I was getting some stuff squared away at my mom's house, and my dad gave me a phone call, and I was talking to him on the phone, and I was talking to him about our business, and he's like, you just sound different. You just sound different. You don't sound like the same person, like the same guy I knew. And he meant that in a good way. And it kind of like triggered something in my brain. I was like, the only thing that's like drastically changed over the last year in our business is you and me. Like, we have grown as individuals. We have grown our knowledge base. Obviously, we've gotten some more technology that's made our offering way more professional and way more streamlined. We've developed better banking relationships so we can provide same day ACHs and getting the wires figured out so that they're much easier to, step up our construction draw game. Our documentation's gotten better. Our operating procedures have gotten better, but that's all because we've gotten better. Because all those things that we've done have come from us learning and growing personally, professionally, and implementing those things, because that's, the highest form of learning, right, is doing. So again, that's just like, it's obvious, when you say it like, oh, what's different in your business, but when truly like our product is, the service that we provide to our clients and the speed and quality and comprehensiveness at which we provide that service. A lot of that has to do with just us getting better, individually.
Yeah. And it's so cool. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to, if I interrupted you, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but I'm handing off to you.
Yeah. It's so cool because it's the same thing that a lot of the people that we're working with are going through. I mean, they're and we see it, right? It's like one of the most fulfilling pieces of this business is being able to grow alongside our clients who are building their portfolios, people who are bringing us properties, and maybe it's their first one, and we're trying to we're doing a draw today for one of our clients, and it's his first deal, and it's just super fun and super fulfilling to be alongside him in this process and to be able to help him in that journey as much as we can, right? Whether that's by connecting him with people that are local to our market because he's out of state, whether that's just by walking him through the process of a typical hard money loan, whether that's by actually providing the capital for him to be able to take the deal down and do the rehab. That's obviously a big one. But it's so fun because, the growth is real in our business, and it's not specific. Like when we think about like our business in the back end, it's systems, it's procedures, it's communication. It's not real estate specifically, but it is directly related to real estate, And so for our clients, their business is real estate. It's, how do I implement better systems to be able to communicate with tenants or to collect rent or to analyze a property, or how do I get better contractors on board, et cetera. But it's very much parallel in the sense that real estate is basically, even if you're investing in a property, like a property is basically a business disguised as a house, because you got to be able to manage it effectively and to communicate and run the numbers and do the accounting, et cetera. So it's one of the coolest things about this business is that we're growing in our own way, building our business alongside with real estate investors and our clients who are building their own businesses. And there's a lot of synergies and a lot of overlap there. So it's just so fun, looking back on our growth, but then also thinking, oh my gosh, think about like where our client was back then when we wrote our first loan with them, and like think about where they are now. And it's only been, like you said, a year and a half so far. And I can only imagine how cool it's going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, seeing the growth of people that we worked with for the first time in 2022 or 2023. It's really fun. So I think that's a great point. Yeah. Anyways, not to ramble. It does get a little bit emotional, but it's super fun.
One of the aha moments for me personally throughout this journey was, and I want to share just very transparently what had happened. So, we had a book of business that I was basically servicing myself as just a private lender before I really said, hey, I'm hard money. I'm going to go out and raise capital for some of these deals, yada, yada, yada. So we had a client we were doing a bunch of business with, and for, one reason or another, we basically had to rebuild the whole portfolio of outstanding loans. So we basically started from zero, and the portfolio was kind of selling off. We were getting out of deals, with these pre-existing borrowers, and we had to basically get everyone on new terms and new processes, and, communicate how everything was going to work and formulate how that was going to work from an operational standpoint. And, it was, like I said, it was a lot. It was a lot of pressure fell on the loan origination marketing piece. And because when you don't have deals coming in the door, there really isn't a whole lot else to do but go out and find new business. And we tacked on those first 2 deals at the end of 2022 that were, new business at our new terms and our new processes and our new procedures. And then we just started adding a few, 1 or 2 loans every month, all the way to the point where, and that might have been a total of like, 200, maybe $300,000 if we were lucky. Sometimes not even $200,000 a month, but getting all the way up to the point where, hey, starting in like June, it's like, or May even, it was like, oh, $500,000. Oh, that's great. That's a record. All right. Then June. All right. I think you just eclipsed $1 million. Then July, and it's like, there's another $1 million. And then August, it's like, I think that's almost another $1 million. And so the loan origination substantially picked up. We learned, how to broker DSCR loans, which is more important to know how to do and know how to qualify borrowers for than it actually is like, because, depending on, there's a lot of options out there for long-term financing, I should say. So I think for a lot of borrowers, DSCR might be a place where they ultimately end up, but maybe not the best place to start. Just, my personal opinion there. But anyways, long story short, Reader's Digest condensed version, the business has just gone on this trajectory that could not have been anticipated. And it's forced us as business owners to, where we thought, hey, this is like where our 3-year plan was going to end up at for fiscal year 2025. I think it's like, this is where we're at in 2023. So what are some of the things that we should have been doing to prepare for 2025, in 2023? And, just very exciting stuff. And it was all sales and marketing driven, building those relationships, like you said. And I think it's helpful to know like the arc of how quickly things can scale. And part of that was timing too, because the real estate market is, pretty active in the summer months when, kids are out of school and people are trying to move and all those sorts of things.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, we kind of started this episode off by touching on it, but I really do just want to really kind of like, I want to hit on it hard. I want to just take a moment to say a sincere thank you to everybody who has trusted us with their business, who has helped us along the way, who has picked up the phone when we called, who has taken time out of their day or out of, the hour or so that they have at a meetup to have a conversation with us. And it goes a long way. And meeting a lot of you who we've developed relationships with has been incredibly impactful. And like Grant said, I mean, we genuinely do not have enough time to sit down and thank every single person individually. But just know that, you guys know who you are. You guys and gals know who you are. And people who we haven't met yet, but have had an impact on our business, who have been silently referring us, it really goes a long way. And I'm happy to be where we are. And I guess I'll just close it out by saying I'm excited for the future, but also, one specific thing that has just genuinely touched me and like made me so excited about this business has been one instance in particular and Grant, I don't even know if you'll know what I'm talking about, but I just don't think we've like actually talked about it specifically, but it's been this really small interaction with one of our borrowers who's out in California. And she came across us as a referral from a relationship that we made with RIA GC. And so it was a lady named Chris Fleming recommended us, and we connected with this client that we've worked with. And when we closed the loan with her, she's just, first of all, she's an absolutely great person. So she's listening to this and she knows who she is, then she'll know, but she's an absolutely great person, a pleasure to work with. And when we closed the loan, Grant and I were both in this office that I'm recording this podcast in, and we just sent her a quick video, and we're just expressed our gratitude and said congratulations, and told her how excited we were to work with her and to be partners on this. And at the end of her loan, when she actually ended up selling her property, paying off the note, she sent us a picture with the closing papers and basically kind of expressed the same thing and said, it was a pleasure and excited to do business together in the future. I just think about that and I'm just like, that is, for lack of a better term, like that is the best. That is so much fun, and being able to do business, but for business to feel like that, where you're exchanging text messages. Now, obviously there's pieces that move between those two instances, right? I mean, there's a lot of different pieces, a lot of stuff that has to happen. But to be able to kind of have basically end caps that look like that, where we're sending videos and just like both of us are smiling, and it's been a great experience. Like that stuff is what makes me excited. And I think about that a lot. And I want every single loan that we do to look like that, and every interaction that we have to look like that. And that's kind of what I strive for. Now, is it perfect? No, but those instances definitely make it all worth it.
For sure. And just like from my perspective, some of the things that like give me the most fulfillment are when we're walking a project, doing a construction draw, and, you know, people are walking us through literally their sweat and tears, their labor. And oftentimes we're not with the actual borrower. Maybe sometimes we are, if they're a GC or they just want to be there with us. And it's like, you know, this is the investment vehicle that's going to help them, you know, kind of get to the desired result they want in life. And in addition to that, you know, we're putting a great place back on the market if they're selling it, or if they're going to be renting it out, providing an affordable place to live, because everyone knows right now there's an inventory shortage, especially here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And to be a part of that solution is super fulfilling. Been through it 50 plus times now, where we've been able to see these properties get put back on the market in better condition than they were in. And it's just, you know, when your work's rewarding and you work with people that you enjoy working with every day, whether it's, you know, my business partner, Chris, or the vendors that we work with, or the clients that we serve, there's nothing better than that. That is the pinnacle. So thank you to everyone who supports what we do, and we're not going anywhere. You know, we'll be writing loans for hopefully a really, really, really long time, as long as we keep our promises and do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so much fun, and I think it's a perfect way to round this thing out. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we head out of here?
No, man.
Awesome. Well, what a perfect way to wrap it up. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for everybody for taking the time to listen to this conversation. Hopefully Grant and I can hop on here and do this more often. Like we said, we really do want to be consistent with this and kind of peel back the curtain and show everybody what's going on in the business. And this has been a cool way to reach new people and to, you know, strike and spark up relationships that we otherwise wouldn't have, even just by putting ourselves out there like this. So appreciate everybody who listened to this. If you found this conversation helpful or insightful, or you just enjoyed it for the sake of entertainment, please do us a favor, share it with a friend, leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. And again, feel free to check us out at sharpercapitalpartners.com, or reach out to us directly at the contact information that will be down below. If you have any questions, we're here. Appreciate you all, and we'll see you in the next one.